You love the birds in your yard. That's not in question. You put out the feeder. You fill it regularly. You watch them from the window and you feel something. Something quiet and good. Every time a cardinal lands or a chickadee darts in and out. But there's something nobody told you when you started. Some of what you've been putting in that feeder. Things that seem harmless. Things that are sold specifically for birds. Things that well-meaning people recommend. Is hurting them. Not dramatically. Not all at once. But slowly, consistently, in ways that don't show up until a bird stops coming back and you never know why. This video exists because you deserve to know. Welcome back to Backyard Bird Mind. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe because what you're about to learn will change the way you care for the birds that have chosen your yard. Today we're going through 7 things that people commonly put in or near their bird feeders that are causing real harm to the birds they love. Some of these will surprise you. One of them is something almost every backyard birder has done. And all of them are completely avoidable once you understand what's actually happening. Stay until the end. Because the last one is the most common mistake of all, and it's the one that costs birds their lives every single winter. Number 1. Bread. This is the one that feels the most innocent. And it is, by a significant margin, the most widespread. Bread is everywhere. It's in every kitchen. It goes stale quickly. And birds eat it eagerly, which feels like confirmation that it's good for them. It isn't. Bread provides birds with almost nothing they need. It is high in simple carbohydrates and low in the protein, fat, and micronutrients that birds depend on to survive, regulate their body temperature, maintain their feathers, and fuel migration. When a bird fills up on bread, it is filling up on empty calories. Calories that satisfy hunger without providing the nutritional content that hunger exists to signal. In ducklings and young waterfowl, the effects are well documented and have a name: angel wing syndrome. The condition, caused by a diet too high in carbohydrates and too low in protein during development, causes the wing bones to grow at an abnormal angle, leaving the bird permanently unable to fly. It is irreversible. And it is caused almost entirely by humans feeding bread to young birds near ponds and lakes. In songbirds, the effects are less visible but equally real. A bird that fills its crop with bread has less capacity and less appetite for the seeds, insects, and berries that actually nourish it. Over days and weeks, this nutritional deficit accumulates. The bird's feathers deteriorate. Its immune system weakens. Its ability to survive cold nights diminishes. And bread left in or near a feeder deteriorates rapidly, growing mold within hours in warm weather. That mold, particularly the Aspergillus fungi family, causes a fatal respiratory disease in birds called aspergillosis. The bird breathes in the spores. There is no treatment. And other birds visiting the same feeder are exposed to the same contaminated source. The fix is simple. Stop putting bread out for birds. If you want to give them something they'll eat with the same enthusiasm, try black oil sunflower seeds, mealworms, or unsalted peanuts. These provide actual nutrition. Bread provides the illusion of feeding while doing the opposite. Number 2. Honey. This one appears most often in homemade hummingbird nectar recipes. Well-intentioned instructions that circulate on social media and in gardening groups, suggesting that honey is a more natural alternative to refined sugar. It is not safer. It is significantly more dangerous. Honey ferments rapidly when diluted with water, which is exactly what happens when you dissolve it to make nectar. The fermentation produces compounds that are toxic to hummingbirds. In addition, honey is a perfect growth medium for a fungus called candida, which causes a disease called candidiasis, a fungal infection of the tongue, throat, and digestive tract that makes it impossible for the bird to feed. The tongue swells. The throat becomes coated in fungal growth. The bird starves to death while food is available because it can no longer consume it. This disease in hummingbirds is sometimes called glued tongue. It is painful, progressive, and fatal. And it is caused almost entirely by well-meaning people who switched from sugar to honey believing they were doing something better for the birds. The correct recipe for hummingbird nectar has never changed. 1 part white granulated sugar to 4 parts water. No honey. No brown sugar, which also ferments too quickly. No artificial sweeteners, which provide no calories and therefore no energy. No red food dye. which has been associated with bill and organ tumors in hummingbirds and is completely unnecessary, since hummingbirds are attracted to the red color of the feeder itself, not the nectar inside it. 1 part sugar, 4 parts water. Boil briefly to dissolve and prevent fermentation. Refrigerate unused portions. Change the nectar every 2 to 3 days in warm weather, every 5 days in cool weather. That's it. That's the entire recipe. And it saves lives. Number 3. Old or contaminated seed. This one is not about what you buy. It's about what happens to it after you buy it. Bird seed deteriorates. It becomes contaminated. And the speed at which this happens, particularly in warm, humid weather, is faster than most people realize. Seed that sits in a feeder for more than a week in summer conditions can develop aflatoxin, a mycotoxin produced by Aspergillus molds that is one of the most potent naturally occurring carcinogens in the world. Aflatoxin accumulates in the liver of birds that consume it. It causes liver damage, immune suppression, and death. It doesn't look different from good seed. It doesn't smell different. But it is actively poisoning the birds that eat it. Beyond aflatoxin, wet seed clumps at the bottom of poorly draining feeders, creating conditions for Salmonella bacteria to proliferate. Salmonella in backyard bird populations causes outbreaks that can kill dozens of birds in a neighborhood within days. The birds show classic symptoms: lethargy, puffed feathers, inability to fly, and they often die within sight of the feeder that infected them. The solution has 2 parts. First, buy seed in quantities you can use within a month. Store it in a sealed container in a cool, dry location, and discard anything that smells musty, looks clumped, or feels damp. Second, clean your feeder. The National Audubon Society recommends cleaning bird feeders every 1 to 2 weeks with a 9-to-1 water and white vinegar solution, scrubbing all surfaces, rinsing thoroughly, and allowing it to dry completely before refilling. A feeder that looks fine from the outside can be lethal on the inside. Check it. Clean it. Replace the seed. This single habit saves more birds than almost any other action a backyard birder can take. Number 4. Dyed or artificially colored seed mixes. Walk into a pet store or garden center and you'll see bags of birdseed that look almost too good. Vivid reds and greens and yellows, the seeds dyed with bright artificial colors that make the product look premium and appealing. It is not appealing to birds. Birds have no preference for seed color. They select by species, by size, by smell, and by nutritional content. The color of a seed tells a bird nothing useful. The dye, however, tells a different story. Many of the artificial dyes used in commercial birdseed mixes have not been tested for safety in wild birds. The birds crack open the seeds and ingest the coating. Young birds in the nest receive dyed seeds from parents who are foraging from these feeders. The cumulative effect of synthetic dye ingestion in small birds with rapid metabolisms is not well understood. But what is understood is that it is unnecessary, that it provides no benefit to the bird, and that it introduces a chemical variable into the bird's diet that should not be there. Beyond the dye issue, many brightly packaged seed mixes are also the lowest quality available, padded with milo, red millet, oats, and other filler seeds that most desirable backyard species will not eat. The birds toss them to the ground, they accumulate beneath the feeder, they mold, and they attract rodents. Buy undyed seed. Buy single species seeds. Black oil sunflower, safflower, Niger, rather than mixes where you cannot identify every ingredient. If you use a mix, read the label. The first ingredient should be sunflower seed. If it's milo or oats, put it back. Number 5. Cooking grease and kitchen fats. This one circulates persistently in online bird feeding advice, particularly in winter when people are looking for high-calorie options. Save your bacon grease, your cooking fat, your butter wrappers, and put them out for the birds. Do not do this. The problem is twofold. First, cooking fats are processed at high temperatures, which changes their chemical structure and produces compounds that can be harmful to birds. They also often contain salt, sometimes significant amounts. And salt is toxic to small birds. Even small quantities of sodium chloride can cause dehydration, kidney failure, and death in songbirds whose kidneys are simply not designed to process it. Second, and more immediately, Kitchen grease is liquid or semi-liquid at warm temperatures. When it gets on a bird's feathers, which it will because birds are messy feeders, it destroys the feather's waterproofing and insulating structure. A bird that has cooking grease on its chest feathers loses its ability to thermoregulate. In cold weather, this is fatal. The bird cannot maintain its body temperature. It dies of hypothermia in conditions that a clean bird would survive easily. Suet, real rendered suet, specifically formulated for birds, is a completely different product. It is rendered at low temperatures, free of salt, and in a solid form that does not coat feathers. Commercial suet cakes sold for birds are safe and genuinely beneficial, particularly in winter. That is what you should be using, not the pan you cooked breakfast in. Number 6. Nectar left too long in the sun. If you have a hummingbird feeder, and if you've made it this far in this video, you probably do. There is one mistake that causes more harm than almost any other: leaving nectar in the feeder for too long, particularly in direct sunlight. Sugar water ferments. In cool weather, this takes approximately 5 days. In warm weather, anything above 70 degrees Fahrenheit, it can take as little as 2 days. In direct summer sunlight, nectar in a clear feeder can begin fermenting in under 24 hours. Fermented nectar is not just less nutritious, it is actively harmful. The fermentation produces alcohol, ethanol, and other byproducts that are toxic to hummingbirds at the concentrations that build up in a feeder left in the sun. A hummingbird consuming fermented nectar is consuming alcohol. It becomes disoriented. Its coordination fails. It is unable to hover accurately. It is vulnerable to predation and collision. And continued exposure causes liver damage. Beyond fermentation, warm nectar is a perfect breeding ground for mold and bacteria. Black mold inside a hummingbird feeder is not just unpleasant. It is a direct health hazard. Cleaning a hummingbird feeder every 2 to 3 days in summer is not optional. It is the minimum. Hang hummingbird feeders in partial shade if possible. This slows fermentation significantly. Use a feeder with a wide opening that can be cleaned thoroughly. And if you see cloudy nectar, black deposits inside the feeder, or dead insects floating in the nectar, empty it, clean it completely, and start fresh. The hummingbird that visits your feeder is burning an extraordinary amount of energy. What you put in that feeder is a direct input into whether it survives. Treat it accordingly. Number 7. Nothing. Stopping in winter. I saved this one for last because it is the most common mistake of all. And it is the one that kills birds not through something you actively put in the feeder, but through what you stop putting there. Every winter, millions of people across North America gradually stop maintaining their feeders. It gets cold. The yard is less inviting. The birds seem fewer. The routine slips. The feeder empties and stays empty for a week, then 2 weeks, then the whole of January. Here is what is actually happening during those weeks. The birds that visited your feeder in spring and summer have not all migrated. Many of them. Northern cardinals, black-capped chickadees, tufted titmus, dark-eyed juncos, white-breasted nuthatches, downy woodpeckers are year-round residents. They did not go anywhere. They are in the same trees they were in all summer, in the same territory, trying to survive temperatures that drop to single digits and below. A black-capped chickadee weighs approximately 12 grams, less than a tablespoon of water. To survive a night at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it must have consumed enough calories during the daylight hours to fuel its shivering metabolism through 12 or more hours of darkness. Researchers have calculated that a chickadee in severe cold must find food equivalent to roughly a third of its body weight every single day just to make it to morning. Natural food sources in January and February are at their absolute lowest. Seeds have been depleted. Insects are gone. Berries finished. The birds that survived the fall partly because of the food your feeder provided have built their winter survival strategy around the resources in your yard. When the feeder goes empty and stays empty, they don't simply adapt. They have to extend their foraging range during the coldest and most dangerous days of the year. Some of them don't make it. The specific birds that don't make it. The individual cardinal that came to your feeder every morning for 2 years. The pair of nuthatches that worked your suet cage through every November. You will never know which ones they were. You just won't see them in spring. And you won't know why. Fill the feeder. All winter. Especially in January and February, when temperatures are at their worst and natural food is closest to 0. Use high-fat seeds. Black oil sunflower, Niger for finches, suet for woodpeckers, and nuthatches. Keep the water unfrozen if you can. A heated bird bath or a thermal water dish costs very little and may be the difference between a bird surviving a night and not. The birds in your yard chose to be there. They chose your trees, your shrubs, your garden. They built their survival around the geography of your yard. Do not disappear on them in January. You didn't know about all of these. That's exactly why this video exists. The good news is that every single one of these mistakes is fixable. Today. Right now. You don't need new equipment or expensive products. You need information. And now you have it. If one of these surprised you, tell me in the comments. And if you've made one of these mistakes, I promise almost everyone has. Share this video with someone who feeds birds, because the birds in their yard are counting on them too. I'll see you in the next one.